Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Lou McCurry and today's show is all about privacy. I'm really excited about this one. We've got some good stuff coming up and I'm doing well. How are you, Bo?
Hey Lou, yeah, I'm doing well. So I'm Bo Fall. I'm a technology specialist based out of Perth, WA. I'm really enjoying my new webcam. So it's one of those Osbot 4Ks. It kind of follows me around the room. So if I go over here, it should follow me by doing this, which just follows me around. Or it's not going to, which is super useful.
Yeah, that bodes well for the demos today, mate. And in case you're a first-time viewer, I'm Lou McCurry. I'm Bo's colleague over here in Melbourne, where the weather has been awesome and we've been out of lockdown for a while, so it's quite the adjustment. We've got someone joining us today.
Yeah, so today we have Walid Elmorsy. He's joining us today to talk about all things PRIVA. So Walid, did you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, first of all. So my name is Walid. I am part of the CXE in engineering organization. So we look after the security and compliance from the product side of the fence. I'm looking after the compliance suite, including PRIVA. So thanks for having me again.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing more about PRIVA. So traditionally what we do at this stage, Walid and others, is we talk a little bit about anything that's new and upcoming, anything that's caught our attention. And for me at the moment, it's information barriers. And if you're not aware of information barriers, it's one of our compliance components. It's been around for a little while, and it's been one of those things that have been a bit sort of tucked in the corner because it required PowerShell to configure and manage this thing. But I had a customer looking for a bit of a demo or a discussion, and it reminded me to have another look at it. And of course, what's changed recently is that we can do the whole thing in the user interface now. There's no need for PowerShell. You can still do it if you prefer, but you can do the whole thing in the UI. And if you're new to information barriers, just think in terms of any groups of users in your organization that really can't be talking to each other, whether it's for regulatory purposes or even in an education setting, the teacher versus student scenarios where you really don't want students, being able to find their teachers in the people picker and sort of harassing them via Teams chat and that kind of thing. So it's a great way to build those barriers and configure, and it's relatively straightforward these days in the UI. So again, if you haven't been there for a little while or you've been scared off in the past, talk to your Microsoft person. I would chuck a link for some doco, I think, in the video later on. So that's what I've been doing this week, Bo. What about you?
Yeah, I think that the ability to do information barriers in the GUI is way easier compared to people that might not be comfortable in PowerShell. So I think that's really cool. So there's some new documentation on why you would look at choosing built-in labeling over the AIP add-on for Office applications. We get that asked all the time. So it's good that we've captured that information. It's very clear, it's concise. You can kind of make an educated decision. Besides that, I've written a few additional articles over LinkedIn covering some of the insider risk capabilities, an overview of the product, kind of what it does, and I'll drop those links into the description of this video as well. So Walid, just so after the introduction, are you able to kind of give us some information about why customers typically would care about privacy management?
Sure, thanks, Bo. So just to start with talking about privacy management, what is it as a concept, right? So it's how you handle personal data appropriately. And you noticed that I didn't mention sensitive data. I didn't mention anything else, personal data appropriately. And that is it in its core totally different from data security, right? So data privacy versus data security, which a huge topic that we can talk about in the next time. But for now is mainly to protect the personal data from being compromised. Obviously, the sophistication of the breaches nowadays is huge, and to protect from these attacks or breaches, there are privacy regulations are being introduced, all around the globe, right? So there was a recent study, I think in 2020, done by Gartner. They predicted that 65% of the globe or population will be covered of some sort of modern privacy regulation, right? So that's, by the way, 65% versus 10% from 2020. That's a huge bump up, right? So as we all do, right? It's not, you know, a small portion of population. As we all do, we manage our like personal data that we deal with on a daily basis in spreadsheet and in an email or Teams chat, etc., etc. And they're all over the place. So in order for your organization to be, you know, compliant with these regulations for in terms of how you handle the personal data, whether it's for your customers or your employees, as well as gaining trust of your, you know, customers and employees that you're managing the data properly, you will have to have some sort of, you know, management of privacy data centralized or baked in the whole process. It's not just sprinkle on top. It's similar to compliance and security, right? It's not something that you add later. It has to be baked in your thinking. And to achieve that, or to achieve privacy, there are some privacy management tools to help you with that, right? So privacy management tools are there to help you to ensure that you're obviously managing your customers and employees' personal data in compliance with any regulations that you might be subject to your field or have to comply with. Think of in Europe, for example, GDPR, here in Australia, APP, etc. By assisting you performing privacy impact assessment, right? You need to know if this sort of information being, you know, compromised, what will happen in terms of legal or financial or reputation, etc., etc. Right? And then you have to track your data privacy incidents as well through that tool. You have to be able to remediate any problems or risk, and you have to report those incidents. This is by law, by the way. And you also have to have some sort of automation and streamline with data privacy process. Think of subject request. If someone came to you and, hey, I need everything to come out. Now, the information, as I said, it's everywhere. How do you do this in a timely fashion and in, you know, low cost and quickly and get that out quickly? This is what the privacy management tool is for.
I was going to ask as well, do you think it's, sorry, Bo, talking over.
All I was going to say was, I think one of the key things that people don't really realize is information security and information privacy are two different things. They're not necessarily the same. You might want to have information security protections around your private data. They are two completely disparate products.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's complementary stuff. It's not one or the other, right?
It goes hand in hand. So
Yeah.
security protects the data from being compromised and malicious attacks, right? So CIA triad, we're all aware of this, right? Data privacy is how to handle this sort of data, right? So they go hand in hand. It's not or, it's an and.
Yeah.
And that goes with compliance as well, by the way. So there is a new term that we have to get used to, right? Privacy posture. So we know about security posture, we know about compliance posture, and there is privacy posture as well. And this is one of the main benefits that you get, obviously, from any privacy management tool.
Yeah, and I think recently, given that we're all sort of working from home and that work and, you know, personal life balance is starting to get a bit blurred, are you finding, I'm certainly finding this with my customers, that there is a heightened awareness around privacy because, you know, from an employee point of view, okay, now you're in my house and now I'm working from home and now I'm using my personal devices. But also, you know, we've heard about the Great Resignation, and whether that is or isn't a factor here. But, you know, as people are more mobile these days and reevaluating where they are, you know, we're all thinking, well, you know, if I'm going to move between jobs, what do I need to take away, or what, you know, where's my stuff, as opposed to what is the sensitive stuff that my employer might be more concerned about.
And I think you're right. Like, it used to be that walled garden approach, or your private data was yours, hidden in your little ecosystem, maybe it's on-prem or somewhere else. But now that everyone's remote, that doesn't exist anymore. That walled garden is gone, right? So it's about putting those controls in place and making sure you know where that information is, and then you can look after it and protect it going forward.
I've just had a flashback for some of you young guys might not be able to relate to this, but back in the day, having to carry two mobile phones, like a work BlackBerry and a personal bloody iPhone, because there was no sort of overlap of that. And now, of course, we're all checking, you know, personal mail on work devices, and there's a lot of overlap, right? We're doing banking on our work devices. So, yeah. So I guess there's the obvious question that's next, Walid. How can Microsoft help? Tell me about PRIVA.
That's a good question, Bo. And to do this, let me share my screen to present it in a better way. So just give me a second, please. And here we go. So what is Microsoft PRIVA, right? So Microsoft PRIVA obviously is the new privacy management tool that we just gave an example of what they can do from Microsoft. It's focusing on the Microsoft 365 environments. So it can help you to enhance your privacy posture. And we spoke about this before. So PRIVA, for now, it comes into two modules or two flavors, right? So we've got the privacy risk management, or we call it PRM, and it comes into or as in subject rights management, SRM, right? So the privacy risk management helps you proactively identify and remediate privacy risks, such as like data transfers, overexposure, or data minimization, or we call it in the IT world, data hoarding, right? And empower information workers as well, your users, to make smart data handling, right, decisions. So to do this, currently we have three main policies or three types of policies. You've got data transfer, overexposure, and minimization. The data transfer is basically highlighting any data transfer between either regions, geos, departments that contain personal data, and it shouldn't be moving around between those two geos or two departments, right? So it alerts you, tells you, okay, there is something happening in the data transfer, contains PII, and you have to look at it because you have a policy that notifies you of any such activities between these two departments and geo. Think of a European country, they have a multi-geo tenant, and the other one in Australia. So the personal data should not leave Europe, right? So if there is such a data transfer coming to Australia, this tool will notify you and actually enables you to take action to remediate. The second type of the policies are data overexposure policies. Think of sharing, right? So we all share data with them from SharePoint, OneDrive, and over email, etc., like that, or Teams. So sometimes we share and we forget, right? And the data is sitting there shared with external people, external orgs, and think of if that external org being compromised, they can actually get access to your data, or the data should not be shared more than 1 week or 2 weeks. Think of commercial bidding and other things, right? That has personal information. So this tool actually notifies you of these sort of documents or shared documents that contains PII that might put you at risk. So you can remediate. The third one is data minimization. So putting the governance hat on, we've got data hoarding. So we all collect data that we might not need. We copy them across a multiple location, even like 3 or 4 copies of a file that may contain PII. So the data minimization policy actually triggers the search and the scan and gives you insight about, these files contains PII and sitting there for, let's say, 30, 60, 90, 120 days that never been touched, not modified, etc. So it can actually tells you, okay, do we still need this? If yes, the user will get notified and they can take action. Also, admin can take action if they identify this. Now, the second module is subject right management. So basically, it helps you to automate and manage data subject access requests at scale, right? So it's not, it depends obviously on other factors, but it can actually go and find all the related information based on your search criteria and just export these data for you to analyze, review, and then you can actually, mark this request on off as completed. So those are the main 2 modules that we have in
with that subject rights management, Walid, obviously if someone puts that request in, a customer, for example, are you able to export that and provide that information to them?
Yes, that's correct. And I will show you an example, but when we work through the portal, there are 3 different types of subject requests, right? So you've got access, you've got export. I will show you that, but obviously you have the ability to export and redact and you do all sort of cool things before you hand over the data. Obviously, yes.
Yeah, I've definitely been in companies where we've had to do that, and hours and hours of engineering time just going through trawling Exchange emails, trawling OneDrive accounts, trawling on like all of that stuff just to do one single subject rights request. It can take a day or two of just someone's full time.
Depends on the field, Bo. I know customers or organizations, they actually hire people just to look after this task, right? So 2 or 3 of them, depends on how frequently you get this. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're on the clock when you're doing those requests or satisfying those requests, right? There's a deadline. Was it 30 days for GDPR, or is it 60? I forget what the actual number is, but they've got to be done within a certain amount of time.
That's correct. And that's why in PRIVA, you actually have the option to specify the due date for this policy. So it actually comes up as a priority. If you missed it or someone missed it, it actually tells you how quickly you have to get this data out and hand it over.
And those people typically, like, it's going to be your security team or your information protection team. So there's things that they should be doing outside of this, but they're wasting days and days and days trying to trawl the subject rights request, right? So the more time that we get back, the more that we're able to do different jobs more effectively.
Yep.
So they would have used e-discovery and other tools like that for this type of request in the past? I mean, they're still valid, but
it's still definitely valid. This one is at scale as well. So the PRIVA one is mainly for at scale. It's not, one-off investigation. Obviously, e-discovery is the base of PRIVA when it comes to searching. But obviously, PRIVA has some more context and data in terms of, again, personal data. So because we've got other products that covering more data types. This one is more in the context of personal data. So yeah.
And I guess, and I think earlier, it's all about that workflow, right? It's about just drive me through what I need to get done and get me out the other end.
Yeah, exactly.
There's another 6 requests in the queue.
And I think it's 2 completely different audiences, right? This is for the privacy team. E-discovery is legal, HR, stuff like that. So you can grant the privacy team specifically access to this. The workflow is easier. There's a wizard. It's not like a massive full e-discovery case where they're trawling with custodians trying to find that data. Skill set's completely different, I think.
And again, PRIVA comes from the context of personal data and the context of the regulation, right? So think about that. So e-discovery is more broader than this and serves other purposes as well. So yeah.
Walid, I want to see all this stuff, mate. Show me some magic. Can you give us a walkthrough?
Let's try to do that. And I apologize. The tenant has been just created a day or 2 ago, and it's my demo tenant. So hopefully we can show good stuff. So basically, you access PRIVA through your compliance portal, right? So you go to compliance.microsoft.com, and then on the homepage, if you haven't enabled Microsoft PRIVA, you will see a tile here that asks you to enable the trial. Obviously, you've got some sort of trial that you can try it out, and then if you decided to move along with the purchase, you can do this. So obviously here it's pinned into the left-hand side of the portal that you can see the PRM or privacy risk management, and you can see the SRR, right? So the first thing is the PRM. So if you go to the overview, and again, that's out of the box. This is one of the main powerful things about, apologize for this. The main powerful thing about the PRM, it's actually out of the box. Once you enable the trial, you can see insights. You don't have to do anything. There are 3 default policies enabled for you that is actually start farming and scanning your data, and then gives you some quick wins or quick insights, right? For example, it will show you on this big tile on the top here, you can see, in the last 7 days, what personal data been discovered through your environment, right? So you've got SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and Exchange. And if you submitted any subject requests, obviously you will see the total number. And if you have any overdue requests, and this back to your point, Lou, this is actually highlight as in red, hey, you're overdue with one of the requests. You have to get it out very soon. And the other,
just jump in really briefly there. Sorry, mate. Just the point you made about the trial earlier on. So just activating the trial gives us insights even before we even start building any policies. And there's no agents anywhere. There's nothing I need to do other than
no. It's all in the cloud because they are all connected. Remember the main powerful thing about the compliance products with the Microsoft, it's all connected to the same source, right? So it's not, again, it's not an or, it's and they are all looking at the same context. Sorry, not context. the same source of truth. Let's talk about MAPE versus DLP versus RM, the DCS engine for the classification. It's one thing that treats all the information equally in every way. So another add-in to the whole suite is PRIVA, right? So it's leveraging other capabilities as well we have in place to show you extra insights or extra benefits.
I like how easy we make it.
So the main one here that is not showing, unfortunately, now, because again my tenant is new, is just and again on the top thing on the top bar here, all these styles are dynamic, right? So you always updating the policy matches. So it can give you an overview of how many matches per policy that you've got in the last 7 days, or maybe month or 2 months, right? So you can actually see what is the most policy that being triggered by users, and that can give you some ideas. Hey, we maybe need to conduct another privacy training. We may need to fine tune this a little bit. We might need to, have a policy tip that shows the users they have to do better, right? So it actually gives you some good insight that you can use it moving on, right? In here, and again, this shows you the active policy alerts. So it's updating this is not as dynamic. The top one is aggregated, but this one is not. So basically, if you have too many policy matches, it will show you what is the alert, the severity, is it critical, etc. You can see here I have one, but it's not showing, and you will know why in a few minutes. The key insights are really good because it gives you a point of view of what's being discovered, who are the top owners of this stuff. You can actually have access to the data to see yourself what's happening. What I personally like about this, I will go through this one, for example, right? So let's take this one, for example. So if you click that file, it tells you who is the owner. Where is it located? Is it SharePoint or OneDrive? The good thing is, if you go there and customize the column in here, the view, right? It actually tells you if it was shared or not. This is critical, right? So it's not only sitting there, it's actually shared. And it tells you if it's shared externally, if it's shared only internal. This is really useful stuff because you can say, hey, you can still have this on your OneDrive, but don't share it externally because this is PII. Just an example.
With that customized columns there, Walid, was there a data type in there that I think I saw?
Oh, definitely. You can see
personal data types,
yeah. Because you've got different PII, right? You've got either full names, you can get like a social security number for US resident in here, Australian driver license. You have to, get some insights. Yeah. But also, Bo, for this, you can actually go to the details and see what you matched, right? So I was just playing around with it the other day, and I found, access level, this is really important to see because you can see what was shared and for overexposure side of things.
That's super powerful.
So that means external access, very, very powerful. And it gives you a very, very good insight about, what's happening in your environment at this stage. And obviously, look, I'm not going to go through all of them now because the tenant is still crawling up, but obviously you get like the most policies matching per owner, per location, number of valuation or number of matching, which can be very, very helpful when you go through them. And this is another view on this pivot. For example, it gives you by location, so you can see how many matching per Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, etc. You can obviously go back to 30, 90 days from here. And also you can have a different pivot, like by data type, for example, right? So in here, you can say, okay, full names, I've got credit card number, US bank. So you have different view of this insight, which is, I think, super critical. And unfortunately, because my data is still not there, the tenant is new, and you can get that transfer detected per organization once you have the policy set up and matching happening, and you can get unused personal data. If you remember the data hoarding or sitting there for X number of days that is not working, not modified, overexposure as well, you can get some insights. Now, once you start dealing with subject right requests, you will see a very nice map in here that it tells you where the data subject request being initiated region-wise. So you can see here, I've exported here one subject data request in the United States. I've got one in Australia, and even I got the third one that is not defined, right? So it's up to you how you set your policies.
And that's going to be relevant from a regulation point of view, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And at some point we will have a map with the regulation per country.
Yeah,
It's
so
I saw it
GDPR
somewhere. It's
versus
very nice.
California and yeah,
Yeah, very nice.
fantastic.
And again, it gives you a very good overview in terms of total requests and what's ready, what's active, what's overdue, etc. like this. And every one of them, you will have a little line here that you can, or link here you can click and go to investigate further from these insights. You've got subject requests by regulation. So if you're interested in the, let's say, GDPR, I can click on that. I can say, okay, I've got like, one request that is needed by GDPR, and I can go as well like 30 and 90 days, etc. Right?
Is that dependent on
and this is
what you've configured? So if we're looking at Australian privacy principles, for example?
Exactly. So when you log your request, there is an option there that you select what is needed for in terms of regulation, what regulation applies in this export. Yeah. It gives you that option. So as you can see here, the main one here is really identify and give you good insights about your current privacy posture, right? And it enables you to think quickly, okay, we might need this here, we might need that training there. It's actually giving you some good valuable insights. The second one is mainly data profile. And again, this is not as dynamic as the insights. The insights is actually dynamic, gives you more update. But this one is a snapshot at a time. So you can see here, for example, right? So you can see the top personal data discovered within the org, but it's kind of like a day old. I mean, it's not a snapshot because it gives you more. It's not an insight, it's very detailed. So from here, you can actually go and explore. And if you click on explore, for example, you will be taken to a view that is kind of similar to obviously Content Explorer, even it's called Content Explorer, but from the privacy sensitive information type view, right? So you can see here it's similar to the Content Explorer. You can drill down and you can find whatever you want in here. You can get an idea, hey, I have too much matching or too many matching against credit card. Why my users are sharing credit card too much, etc. So you might take an action.
And those would be specific to the personal data sensitive information types, right? So we wouldn't be getting things like IP addresses and other things that aren't necessarily.
Well, if you think about the IP addresses, we go back to what is privacy, right? What is privacy data? It's linked data or linkable data, right? So, based on many things, and we can touch on this one in an upcoming episode if you guys want. And here it gives you a very good breakdown per location, like workload, and then you can click. For example, if you want to only SharePoint, you can click on the SharePoint, and you get to the Content Explorer only for SharePoint. And it's broken down again by set. So instead of clicking on SharePoint and go back and forth, this is actually easy access to get into there if you're interested, right? And you can see here it's a list of SharePoint in one place for only for
and again, this speaks to the two audiences, right? Like if you're a privacy person, you're only going to care about these. You don't care about the other sensitive information types that we're looking for, maybe confidential information unique to that organization. You don't necessarily care about that.
Exactly. That's totally right. So moving to the last tab within the PRM in here, that the policies tab, right? So in the policies, obviously, as we said, we have three types of policies. We have the overexposure data transfer and the minimization, data minimization. So as I said, by default, once you enable the trial, you get the default ones enabled for you, right? And you will be on. So you have the option to either disable and create your own. You can use them, you can edit them, you can put them back in testing, which I've done here because I wanted to play around with my policies and create some. And you will also be able to get to see how many policy matches per policy. Unfortunately, as I said, it's not done yet. But for me, I've got some old alerts, which I'm going to show you, that should come into the alerts tile in here. So if you go, for example, and again, the policy matching, you can see 3 in testing and 3 on. And if you go something off, it will show you the chart as well. So if you go for alerts, for example, right? So you've got an overview on how many alerts you've got. In my case, because I've done something to escalate an issue, which is basically create a case in the IRM world or e-discovery world. So basically, you've got an alert like this, and it will tell you what the policy being matched, the severity, number of matches, and what's the match policy, and when it was detected. So if you click on that and you can have more info, but also you can escalate as an issue, which translate to escalate as a case, right? In other words, which I've done for this alert, by the way. That's why I want to show you. But you can also get, what content, what PII or what sets being matched, etc. in this view as well, right? So in here, if you go back to the main view in here, you will see the issues, right? So which I've created, and this is really useful because you can actually investigate. This is where you start looking at stuff. So in the view issue, if you go there, once you created it, you can see here that I have created an issue, but I haven't assigned it yet, right? So you can obviously assign it to a colleague or a privacy team or investigators, etc. And it gives you here some issues over time tracking. So let's go in this one, for example, and show you what the issue looks like. And again, I just created this an hour ago, so we might or might not have the data collected already. I apologize for the delay.
So those issues, they would correlate on that graph. So if we've had an issue 3 days ago, another one today, that would show up on that graph you showed previously? Yeah.
Yes, it shows you how you're tracking with you might have some days it's a very high number of issues or something. It depends on how often you create issues, right? So you have the option to either dismiss the alert, or if you think it's serious enough, you can escalate it to become an issue, right? So it gives you some information, obviously, on the overview page, when it was created, what is the severity, the default one, the alert ID, etc. But you have the option to actually assign a different severity if you think this is, this should be treated differently. And it gives you the current step, whether it's retrieving, downloading data, etc., and it gives you some high-level information about, okay, the location was in a SharePoint, about the policy, location SharePoint OneDrive, and you should get the notification daily. It's more information about the policy itself. And then you can go to the Alerts tab, which will show you what alerts that triggered you to create this issue. So it includes the alerts into the issue. And you can see here it's confirmed because I've decided this is worth checking. In the content tab, again, it's still retrieving and downloading, but basically this is where you can see all the related data matched or content matched for this alert. You can also add notes, and you can add colleagues to as collaborators, etc. Right? So it's a very, very powerful tool for investigation collaboration stuff. That's in terms of the policies. Would you like me to move on to the subject request?
Yeah, sounds good. I think that investigation screen is kind of like the insider risk one, right? It's got a lot of those same functionalities.
Similar. And again, the same sense of experience, because you don't want a new tool, a new experience. It's basically similar to you, so you don't feel like it's a new thing coming up. No, it's same feeling even, but with different options and functionality.
Yeah, I like how it's consistent. That consistent experience across those different products.
It's also the aspect of
definitely
looking after these privacy investigators and these managers and those people, giving them their own space from a role-based access control point of view. Everything is self-contained. They don't need to go off and involve other parts of the organization who shouldn't be exposed to this content, right?
Thank you very much, Lou. This is exactly what I wanted to show, but I forgot. So the RBAC, we should start with the RBAC, right? So you've got a few RBACs related to PRIVA, right? So for, let's say, small to medium organizations, that you can have the privacy management, the top one that everyone, one admin can do everything, right? So it suits like small to medium organization. For larger organization with multiple different teams, multiple different, departments, that you can actually tailor this and become more granular when it comes to RBAC. So if we just look for the PRIVA related one. So you can see the RBACs listed: privacy management, admin, analyst, investigator, viewers, contributors, right? So you've got like 6 of them. This is when, if you have like a really large firm or external auditor or investigator, etc., you have the ability to tailor or granularly give the permission as you want. Very, very good point, Lou. Thank you. So moving to the SRR. So basically, this is where you can actually raise a request or create a request based on your needs. You can see here I created like 3 requests, and basically they're all active because I haven't done anything yet. So you've got 3 different types, as I said before. So you've got the access or export or just tagged list for analysis, right? So let's take something like the access policy, right? So if you click on it, it will obviously get some overview details and notes like this, where the user is the Australia. Remember the map I showed you, there was one in Australia, right? So this is the user in Australia, and regulation GDPR obviously doesn't make sense, but just giving you some examples. The type, whether it's a current employee, if it's a departed employee, if it's a upcoming hire, actually you can select this. The deadline is the one that Lou brought up before, right? So there is a deadline that you can actually configure and say, okay, I need this information by this, and this will trigger whoever is doing the investigation or collection. Okay, I need to do this first before the other one because the due date is approaching, right? And in the notes, if you added the notes, if someone added the notes, hey, I think we should include this, not include this, etc., it will come up in here, right? Yeah. So to see the actual details, you just click on the request, and you can see some overview and the progress. So basically, you've got like 5 different stages or 5 different steps. For this one, we're still doing the data estimates. I didn't take it further, and I wanted to show this in the demo, right? Yeah. So obviously, I'm including some data estimate summary, so you can get a sense similar to eDiscovery, how much data or how big is the data that I'm getting out. Do I need to fine tune my query? Am I getting too much? Am I getting too low? Am I missing something? That actually gives you some ideas or some insights on if you need to do some more query fine tuning. And obviously you can see what's being collected, if you have put any notes, any collaborators, and then some reports when you finally finish with the data. So I had a case that I took it to the next level, which is my admin account. And that was for export. So let's say you have a customer or ex-employee or a current employee, give me everything that you have on me, right? So obviously you can go and do a search and get everything related, and you can see, look, I kept it open. I've got too many things about this admin, including notification, alerts, and everything. And I actually took it to the next level. It's not data estimate. I actually retrieved the data and I started reviewing it. And this is the interesting part, right? So once obviously you can see this is in my case properties that I decided to include when I created it. But the interesting part here, and again, similar to IRM eDiscovery review, same feeling, same everything, you will get all the collected data in here, right? So if you go by one, obviously you can mark it as included, excluded, etc., until you're happy, and then you can just complete review and take it to the next level. But for this one, for example, I've got this one, and I said, look, I want to have again, was playing around. I said, look, this one looks fine. I want to include this one, and then I want to redact some stuff. Obviously, I've got this capability. Obviously, I'm redacting some random stuff here to show off the capability, but you can redact and you can add some more details, obviously, for your colleague or someone who is, wanted to have a look. And then the file notes. Sorry, this is the file note that you put for your colleague. Yep. As you can say here, this should be considered, etc., as an evidence. Then I go here and click include. That will be included in the export. Obviously, you can do it from here as well. So you can include, exclude, not match, and you can reset if you think this is wrong. Let's reset the status. And then, as you can see here, the review status is included.
That redaction.
If you think this, sorry, Luke, go ahead.
That redaction capability, I think, is a good illustration of that difference between sensitive information and private information, right? Because I'm making that request. I want my personal information, but you can't give me any sensitive information.
Exactly. Or other people, PII.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way,
Excellent.
Because this is to you is sensitive information as well.
Yeah.
That's completely right. So for example, I had this empty subject email. I'm not sure why I had it. And I decided, hey, this is nothing. I don't think this is worthy. wasting my time on it. So I said, look, exclude this. I don't want to have this, and so on and so on. So you can see obviously who is the current owner. If you have any tags, obviously you can add tags to it, like update or follow up or have another look or whatever you want. And there are custom tags and there is out of the box tags. And yeah, you can export, you can filter, you can do whatever you want in here. So it's a really powerful tool for investigation before export, obviously. And here, obviously, you have the request notes. So here I said, look, federal police want this guy, or let's export something made up. And obviously, I added my colleague, John. Hey, can you come and have a look for me as well, or help me out to collaborate in this? And actually, once you have created a request, you will have a team channel that you can collaborate with, sharing evidence or talk about it. And once you close it, the team channel or the whole team site will go away once you close the request. And also once you're finished with the whole thing, you can actually start getting some reports. But as you move from one stage to the other, you can start getting some reports like files tagged as included or excluded. You say, okay, we excluded this for that reason, and we don't think it's related. So just for tracking and auditing perspective. And that's pretty much it from the SRR for the overview. Hopefully that was enough.
No, that was really good. I know I've learned a lot. I know it's one of those newer products that customers might not know that much about yet, or might not even know it exists. So I think it's really important that we have that conversation and kind of educate them on that. But no, I learned a lot myself.
I'm gonna have to watch that back and review as well and have a bit of a play, because I had been sort of having a look at it and digging in as we all have been, of course, but there were some bits there you touched on, Walid, that were really illuminating. So thank you for that. Excellent work.
Thank you, guys. And we can do other episodes on later on, and we can show, actually we can put it in a scenario thing, and we can check once my demo tenant becomes more responsive.
I think what we've done well there is the workflow. That's the thing that impresses upon me. It's that guided workflow, I should say, that is suitable for the kind of investigators who are going to be using the tool. It's not about IT. It's not a SOC team tool, right? It's about privacy managers or other investigators working their way through. I love it.
Look, at some point, Lou, as you said, there is a topic that I would like to talk about later down the line, which is the privacy management principles. Right? One of the principles that the subject request automation and the workflow, as you said, right? So you have to have an easy automated flow that helps you moving along. The manual stuff doesn't work anymore with the amount of data that we're getting these days. So it's crucial to have this.
It's like I've always found a lot of interest in the data hoarding principle, right? Like we're not meant to be holding data forever, not personal data. After a certain point where we don't need it anymore, it should be removed. A lot of companies just don't. They'll just hold everything until the end of time. That increases their risk exposure because they've got that data. They're breaching some of those regulations that they shouldn't be having anymore. So I think it's really key that we start addressing it.
And that's one of the main challenges for governance and data retention and stuff like that, right? So data hoarding is a big challenge. So it's not only because you're compromised, like identity theft or whatever way they got in. If they didn't find anything, that will lessen your risk. But if they found stuff that you are not even aware of, that's even worse than the compromise itself. So
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about all those people out there with the default retention policies of keep everything forever. It's like, really?
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was really good. I think let's move on to the toy box presentation, right? So for those of the audience, I suppose, that might not have viewed it, at the end of every video, we come up with a toy box. So something that we're interested in, it might be something that we've got, something that we're doing, something that we've been interested in. So in the past, I've covered things like MMA events and stuff that I've gone to that I've enjoyed. And we're just going to cover it off one by one now. So I'm going to start by covering off, I'm going to be presenting at a virtual conference called ComfyCon this year. I'll be covering things about insider risks and how they are different from business risks. It's a virtual conference. It's free to attend. it's good to support them, maybe buy a shirt or something like that to support them. It's a non-for-profit. They're not earning any money from it. And that's in early April. So I'll put the show notes, the link to that event within the show notes here, and then feel free to attend. It'll be good. And with that, I'll hand over to Lou to have his bit.
I'll be there. Normally I drag out Walid for you and for everyone else's benefit, something musical, because it's what I do when I'm not working, sometimes when I am working. And I like to repurpose stuff. You know, we're sort of building all this and driving this using OBS. And for those of you who've played with that before, you know, there's all sorts of peripherals you can spend money on. And I've shown this before. This is a drum machine controller thing that I use for music, but I'm actually using, and I'm flipping this around while I'm talking, as a stream deck. So as I'm hitting these buttons, I can switch between scenes. It's off on the side here, and I've just saved $400 by using something I already had. So that's my tip.
Should become a Twitch streamer. You'll be all ready to set up to go.
Well, there's a lot of unused buttons and controls there. So I think maybe next time we might get some flyouts and some special. All right. Look, with that, it's been another good episode. It's been a great episode, actually, and one I do fully intend to go back and check out again. So thank you again, Wally, for joining us today, and looking forward to having you back next time. Bo, you're always wonderful. Good to have you here as well, of course. And I've had a great time again. So with that, we'll all see you next time. And I'm going to look over here and work out which button to push to see us out. See you later, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.